What's good, YouTube? It's your boy Double B here, back with another video. Before we get started, I'd like to ask if you guys could just please like, share, comment, and subscribe. Helps the video out a ton, helps the algorithm out, so much appreciated if you guys can do that for me. Before we get into my Week 8 picks, just want to do a quick recap of Thursday Night Football. For the video picks, did go 1-1. Matt Stafford cashed us out over 235.5, pretty easy. Aaron Jones, I still like the pick. He had 19 carries, just came up about 10, 15 yards short. You live with that. If you do follow me on Twitter, I did give out Demarcus Robinson at 22.5 yards. That cashed. So, like I said, make sure to follow me on Twitter. This is my Twitter up here right now, or X. The link will be down below in the comments section or out of the description. But without any further ado, I'll get started for my Week 8 picks. So, for the first pick here is going to be Dalton Kincaid, over 41.5 receiving yards. So, the Seattle has struggled this year against tight ends. I can pull this up for you guys right here. Seattle is 6th in terms of most yards allowed to tight ends. So, I think Dalton Kincaid has a great matchup this weekend. He's been pretty solid all year, so I like the spot for him. I'm not too worried about Amari Cooper, taking targets or yards away from him. He had 52 yards last week with Cooper there, and I think he's going to be used quite a ton this week, so I like the spot here for Kincaid. As you can see here, I said, I know I have quite a few tight ends. You'll see later on, as I go through these picks, that there will be quite a few tight ends. So I'm just pretty much going through my picks on X, through my bookmarks. So I will move up here to my next pick. My next pick was going to be a Sunday Night Football play. I'm planning on doing a video for Sunday Night Football, but the problem is right now, San Fran doesn't have any lines up because of the injuries with, Jennings, Debo, and Kittle. So hopefully I can make a video as long as the lines don't come out too late. I will post a video for that as well. So this is the play I do have though for Sunday Night Football. Rico Dowdle over 13.5 receiving yards. So this is I wouldn't say a sneaky play, but I think he's just going under the radar in terms of receiving running back. He's hit this line every week except for week 1 against the Browns. He's been used pretty heavily in the pass game for Dallas this year, especially after Cooks got hurt. They don't really have other pass catchers, so they've been leaning on Rico a lot. It's really only CeeDee Lamb. Tolbert and Ferguson are not consistent enough to be, valuable options in the pass game. Mike McCarthy did also say earlier this week that he wants Rico more involved in the offense. I know Dalvin Cook is also going to be active for this week. Dalvin Cook not worried about taking receiving yards away from Rico, so I think he can get this pretty easily. San Fran is also, I believe, somewhere in the top 10 in running back receiving yards allowed. So pretty good matchup for Rico. I think that he gets back on track this week here. My next play is going to be Sam Laporta over 32.5 yards right here. I just think it's too low, considering with Jamison Williams got suspended for 2 games, so he will be out, obviously. I have here, I posted along with the pick. Last year, without Williams, Laporta went over this number in 4 out of 5 games. As you can see here, 39, 63, 84, 56, and 29. So I think it's going to be a similar performance for him. I think he's going to be used quite a bit. He's been pretty quiet this year, but I think he does get more involved this week. So I do like Laporta to go over that line of 32.5. My next play here is going to be Kenneth Walker, receiving yards over 23.5. So Kenneth Walker has been heavily used in the pass game like Rico, kind of under the radar, but he's been getting the ball. He's been getting quite a bit of targets his way, a lot of catches so far this season. He has a great matchup against Buffalo. I believe they're either 2nd or 3rd in against running backs receiving yards. I'll just get this up real quick right here. Yeah, number 2, 54 yards a game versus receivers. So I really like the spot here. Not to mention DK Metcalf was also doubtful for this game. So I do think that He's going to be even more involved than he has been all year. So I like the spot for him here at 23.5 receiving yards against Buffalo. My next one up is a perfect bounce back game for J.K. Dobbins, over 76.5 rushing yards. The game script is great for him. They're 7.5-point favorites. I think the Chargers and Dobbins bounce back after the loss they took last Monday night to the Cardinals. Cardinals have been pretty bad against running backs in general. Rushing yards, particularly. Click touchdowns. Yards here, they are, with a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7th against run. They're actually tied for 6th with the Commanders at 114 a game. He's going to be their main back. Gus Edwards is still out. So I really like J.K. Dobbins to get back on track after a slow game last week. I don't know why. I said the Cardinals. The Saints. The Saints are actually 1, 2, 3. The 5th. They allow the 5th rushing yards to running backs. So, again, even better matchup for J.K. Dobbins to go over his rushing prop at 76.5. Another running back prop I'm going to take with his rushing yards is James Cook, over 59.5 rushing yards. I don't think it should be this low. Another great matchup. Seattle has been terrible against the run this year. As you can see here, they are ranked 2nd in most rushing yards allowed, allowing 129 yards. I think James Cook's kind of flying under the radar. Had a little down week last week. It was a blowout, number one. And number two, was his first game back dealing with turf toe. I think he's going to be pretty healthy and ready to go for this week. I know everyone's loving Cooper. They're loving their other running back, Ray Davis. So I'm not really buying into all that hype. James Cook is still their main number one guy, so I think they're going to lean on him a lot this game against Seattle. Also, the weather's supposed to be like light rain, I believe, and like 12-mile-per-hour winds, so all wells will help James Cook in the run game. Next play here is Ja'Marr Chase, over 75.5 receiving yards. As you can see, I said here, anything under 80 yards for Ja'Marr Chase is a smash spot. I do like the matchup. It's solid. Philadelphia allows their 12th against receiving yards against wide receivers, so it's nothing crazy. They still are, below average against receivers, but their matchup, especially the last few weeks, they haven't played against the best of teams. So I think Ja'Marr Chase, he's due for a big game. He's been quiet for him the last 2 games. So I think he's going to have a good game for Cincinnati. They play, what did I say here? I believe they play a ton of man. Just trying to get that up here. Whoops. Sorry about that. Oh, Cincinnati plays man. Yeah, my bad. But no, I just wanted to pull up here for you guys he's been a little quiet his last 2 games. So, pull up props cash here. 72 and 55. So, again, quiet for him. Still solid numbers. But you can see his 3 games before this, he had a 118, 85, and 193. So, you can see the Giants and Cleveland, they're decent against receivers. But Washington, Carolina, and Baltimore, he took full advantage of it. So, I do like the spot for Ja'Marr Chase at 75.5. I think it's a hair too low. So, anything under 80, I'm definitely smashing. So, my next play here is Dalton Schultz, over 29.5 receiving yards. Colts have been terrible against tight ends. I can pull this up here. I believe they're either 2nd or maybe 3rd in yards allowed, or yards. Oh, that's right. I think they're bad against touchdowns, yeah. So they are in the top half. They're 27th overall against tight ends when you take into all considerations of the stats. So, again, not necessarily yards, but they still are in the bottom half, so they still do struggle against tight ends. But I just love the matchup for him at home. Houston has been way better at home than on the road. So I know a lot of people probably staying away from Houston after last week's performance, but you got to look at their road splits and home splits. CJ Stroud has been very bad on the road this year. Nico Collins still obviously is out, so a lot of targets, a lot of opportunities for their other guys to step up and take advantage of it and smash their props. So I love the spot here for Dalton Schultz at 29.5 yards. My next play is Evan Ingram over 48.5 yards. Green Bay's another team that has struggled against tight ends. And I think his yards should be about 5 to 7 yards higher for his receiving yard prop, somewhere in the mid-50s, 54, 55.5. I just think this number is too low for Evan Ingram. I know Brian Thomas does his thing, but Trevor Lawrence, he's still his safety valve for him. They're at home. I can see this game being a pretty high-scoring game as well, so I think Evan Ingram has a solid game here against Green Bay. Staying in the same game, Josh Jacobs, 15.5 receiving yards. Jacksonville has been terrible against running backs, particularly through the air. So Josh Jacobs, another sneaky running back that has been involved in the pass game this year a lot. I believe he's went over this. He's been over this line in 4 straight games. They actually allow the most receiving yards to running backs. So really love this spot for Josh Jacobs here. Feels a little bit too low. Should be around low 20s in my opinion. This one here, I did drop a lotto plus 2100, 21,500. I'm going to talk about Devontae Smith and Devon Vele in a second, but I love Jerry Jeudy here. Shouldn't say I love him. Love him for this lotto. I'm not playing his straight, but with Jameis Winston at the helm, Jerry Jeudy is, out of the receivers, Elijah Moore and Cedric Tillman as their receivers. He's the most talented one by far. So I think if any of them are going to have a good game, it's going to be him. Couldn't ask for a better matchup against Baltimore. They have been terrible against receivers all year. So game script, the Baltimore is 8.5 points favorites. So I do think Cleveland will have to throw a lot. So I just had a bonus bet. I threw $5 on here to win 1,000. So tell if you want. If you want to play them straight, go for it. I'm going to talk about Devontae Smith and Vele right now because my next play here is Devontae Smith over 54.5 receiving yards. Great matchup against Cincinnati. Cincinnati has been terrible against, their defense has been terrible all year. Very bad against receivers. Devontae Smith has had the last game he had negative yards, 1 catch, and even the game before that he didn't do much either. Dallas Goedert is still out for Philadelphia, so I think Devontae Smith's going to have a real good bounce back game. The Bengals run tons of man, and that's where Smith has his highest target share for the year. So love Devontae Smith to crush 54.5. My last play for the video will be Devon Vele. So this, I'm doing a ladder here with his yards. So I'm going to explain this in a second. So his straight is at 24.5 at FanDuel. I'm placing that for a unit. And I'm also placing half units on 40 and 50 plus, and then I am also doing quarter units on 60 plus and 70 plus. I'll explain why, because you're probably like, who? But I'm going to show you why I'm doing this. Whoops. Let me pull this up here. So, let me scroll down here. So, Bailey has played 3 games this year. Right. And this is what the Panthers, they run 52.8% of cover 3. Right? So that's the main defense that they run. And on Vele's, he has a 71% target share in cover 3. And they run it 52% of the time. So it is pretty crazy that he has that high of a target share against cover 3, which is going to be what the Panthers are running 52% of the time. So I really love this spot. Josh Reynolds, of course, is still out for for the Broncos. I think Vele's going to have a really good game. He had, I believe, 77 or 72 yards. I can pull this up to be exact. But yeah, that was a few games ago. He played week 1. He was hurt for a few weeks. He came back. He had about, like I said, like 70-something yards. I'm going to pull this up here. Or they don't even have him. But yeah, he had like 70-something yards for that game. And, oh, here he is right here. I knew he was here. 78 yards. And the Chargers run, the coverage they run the most on defense is cover 3. He killed them. The Saints, he only had 20 yards last game, but he should have had like at least I would say probably 30, it's like 35, 40 yards because I believe he had 2 or 3 other catches that were called back from penalties. So I think it's very low for him, and that's why I'm riding his ladder up all the way to 70 plus. I think he has huge potential this week against Carolina. It's like I said, can't be a better matchup for him. He's killed cover 3. Like I said, the team that he played that runs cover 3 the most, the Chargers, he killed them 78 yards. Now he goes up against a defense that runs it over 50% of the time, and he has a 71% target share against cover 3. So I love the spot here. Thanks for watching, guys. Make sure to follow me on Twitter. I might be dropping a few more plays before Sunday kicks off. And like I said, I'm going to try to get a video out for Sunday Night Football. You just have to see when these lines are going to get dropped, because right now there's not a lot to do for Sunday Night Football right now. So stay tuned. Make sure to subscribe, like, and comment. Appreciate y'all taking the time and checking me out. Peace.